Hey everyone, this is Jamie Pate, and again, welcome to the channel. Appreciate you so much for being here. This month is National Craft Month. The month of March. I'm speechless. What a fun month to dive into and just make stuff. So I have some things I'm super excited to share with you today. So let's get started. Okay, for today's video and for National Craft Month, I want to talk about something I've done for a couple of years now, and that is I focus on MemoryDex. I still do all the other things I love to do, but MemoryDex comes into focus for me. Okay, what is MemoryDex? For those of you who do not know what MemoryDex is, it is a collection, a paper crafting collection Heidi Swapp came up with years ago, and it includes what you can see here, this spinner. And actually, I will note the spinner, there are just a couple of them still available in ScrapbookCom. But never fear, we're going to address what if I don't have a spinner question. So it's sort of a Rolodex paper crafting, organizing sort of, I don't know, thing. I'm usually much better with words than this. But what happens is a person takes, this is just a tag, right? Pattern paper. And I love the sentiment, and I cut it out, and there used to be a paper punch that you could then punch and make the little shape that fits into this crafting Rolodex. And you could make all kinds of cards. Think ATC, artist trading cards. Kind of the idea here. Again, pattern paper and some definition stickers and a little tab. And done. And I started then also to start crafting the other side, because when it would sit in my Rolodex like this, well, then you are seeing both parts, and it's always kind of nice for this to be visually pleasing as well. There are a whole lot of ideas like this out there in the crafting world. People get really, really artistic. Some people stay very paper crafty, which is what I tend to do. And so if you travel down my feed on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of MemoryDex. And in March, what I have done in the past, I have done 30-day challenge where I've challenged myself to make a card a day, and that was fun and pretty successful. I've done it where I've made a couple cards a week, but still kind of focus on the making. And so that's what MemoryDex is. Now, part of MemoryDex, and I talk about this in a blog post this week, included, like I already said, a MemoryDex spinner. This was the blush one. There was pink. There was black and white at one point. It includes the die that you can cut out different cards from. These are two of them. There's also should be a tabbed one in here as well. And I'm not finding it. Here's one of the tabbed ones. That is what you could also cut it from a die. Or I already mentioned there used to be the punch, and you could just punch this out. Those are really, really hard to come by right now. And so you're probably not going to find them out there, and we're going to address that. The thing about MemoryDex for me is making something that is very, very ideally shown right here. It is a visual inspirational reminder. That to me is what MemoryDex is. Very personal. It's not something I make for somebody else. It's not something I put in an album, although you can. A search for the good and beautiful. Fresh air, take a breath, play it cool, right? Visual inspiration is what these have been for me in the past. Okay, let's get to the first of several things I want to share with you today. All right, in today's video, there are about 5 tips, tricks, ideas, however you want to categorize them, that I want to share with you. The first thing is, and I've touched on this already, is you don't have to have a spinner, you don't have to have the dies, you don't have to have the paper punch in order to make and participate in MemoryDex. First off, the dies and the paper punch, you can look for them out there. They're very hard to find. I guarantee it. What I am going to do for you, I'm using a basic card, and I'm part of a MemoryDex Mania group on Instagram. You can find that. Use a hashtag MemoryDexMania, and you're going to find a whole lot of MemoryDex cards out there. And for that project, I am using a tabbed card. You can see we can use it both ways. I'll provide a download for this template in today's description. And so you can grab that, you can use it to trace, or you can make cut lines from it for your die cutting machine. But I will provide that for you. And I'm just going back and forth when I'm using this. Let me show you really quick. For MemoryDex Mania, I've done 3 cards. Every month there's a theme. So January's was sequins. And so you can see the sequins that I added to this card. February was pink. That was not a hard stretch for me whatsoever. And then March was spring. And so that was my card for spring. And you can see the point I wanted to make here as when I start to file these away, I'm just using this tab and they're going to go back and forth and add a lot of sticky out parts, which I love. Okay, so that's for the cards itself. I'm not going to bother with the tabs. I'm going tabless. Oh my, just shocking. Shocking, I say. Okay, now for the next part, I was going to show you, I was going to go ahead and trim this out, but I'll just go ahead and do that. You can get the idea. I'll trace that and trim that out. So that's what that's all about. Okay, now for the holder. I decided that I wanted to do something a little different in terms of a holder. This is a Tim Holtz vignette box. This is one of them. This comes in a pack of 3. This is the middle one. And you can see that I've already kind of played around with it with a Stampers Anonymous trim. I glued the trim in there, and I really liked how these just kind of set up in there. Just not too complex at all. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show this to you, but I think you'll get the idea. Just having that little tab in there, and I'll do several more. That is how I'm going to hold my cards for my month's MemoryDex cards. But I'm going to cover this box with this very wide tape. The other thing I want to mention to you is the idea of scraps. MemoryDex cards is a great home for scraps. And as you can see here, I die cut the heck out of my scraps as well. If I get a little piece that I like the color, I'm going to try to make use of it. So just keep that in mind. Keep your scraps and put them to use on your MemoryDex cards. And to kind of segue the whole idea of using scraps is, I've talked about this before. This is not unique to MemoryDex cards. This is something that should be kind of a universal habit of ours. And I hope you're doing this, or I hope you start to do it. But you can see here, I keep, there are kind of scraps in here, but I keep in here by color die cuts of maybe I was just in a die cutting mood and I just went to work. Maybe I was working on another project and I die cut a bunch of things and I have things left over. So as I'm thinking about this card right here, die cuts are going to really come into play. Take a look at my previous cards that I've showed you before, and you're going to see they are bits and pieces and parts and parcel of a larger collection. Which then takes me to basically point number 4. In terms of MemoryDex, let's face it, people, in terms of everything I do, MemoryDex is just the medium of choice right now. But layers rock. Layers rule. It's all about the layers. So as I was kind of thinking through this card here, I have some print shop here from Vicky Bouton. This is a die cut from Tim Holtz. Of course, these Sunny Lane leaves are going to find a home here on my card. I have another one in place. See if I have any more. Yeah, I have this blue one here that I like as well. So I have this little word here. I'm super tempted. Always. That's adorable. Okay, what else do I have in here? Do I want this? Probably not, but I think I might want this. But it's the same color, so I probably won't use that. Maybe a little label here. I know I have in here a butterfly that I wanted to make use of, which I thought matched up with that. Then, oh, and I forgot about these guys. I have these tiny little butterflies. I mean, And let's get the tool for that. These are called Hello Bloom, and they actually came out last year. And so I am so excited that it's getting to be spring around here, because the butterflies are coming out, friends. They are coming out to play. Okay, so I'm going to voice over as I work on my layers. Now, this is a classic Jamie thing to do. This papery print shop piece from Vicky Boutin is a little thin, so I have some ScrapbookCom's cardstock that I am backing that up with. So it's just going to give it a little bit more durability. I'm showing you here that I utilized that corner rounder after I cut my card out, just kind of give my corners just a little bit better look. And I did the same thing with that little card. Here's to the mother of all double-sided adhesive foam rolls. I use this quite a bit in crafting these cards, and I'm using the 1/8 strip here on that little collect die cut because I really want it to have lift. Lift is really the thing I enjoy so much playing with. And I'm sorry, I should have zoomed this in a little bit closer for you to see a little bit more details, but I think you're getting the idea here. So reaching for that foam tape again, and you're going to see later on, I'm going to double up on that little blush ticket. And then it's just a matter, you're watching this seriously in real time. I'm just playing with ideas. I don't really know how this is going to go, but all of a sudden I had the idea. I'm just going to take these little branches that I have, and I'm going to grab the tiny attacher and put them in place. And then as I play with them a little bit, I think here in a second, I realized the one little, okay, this is where I'm getting ready to double it up. But after I layered this on the blue piece, I realized that little branch there, he's a little loosey-goosey, so I went and just glued him in place a little bit better. So that's what I'm doing there. I believe next, I'm just going to go ahead and put this butterfly in place, and so it's going to be glued. I didn't necessarily feel like it needed any more height. It's pretty floaty, right? Because of the wings are not glued down. And then I realized on my blue base there that it was not as even, so I just added a piece of the adhesive again there to make sure that looked stable and in place. I keep grabbing this little ticket guy to see if he's going to go somewhere. It's literally a scrap, but it didn't quite work out. But I did happen to have this old piece of 49 and Market. And later on, you're going to see that it actually says art on it, and I had no idea. So it looks like it says collect art, which is so cool. Man, I love when these serendipities turn out. So that little tab was sitting there. I'm like, oh, heck, let's just put it right there. Literally had no idea where it was going to go. And this is just me putting those baby tiny butterflies to look like they are just floating all over the surface of this card. And that jewel picker is super helpful. So it's just glue, pick, and drop it in place. Glue, pick it up, drop it in place. And that's as easy as that was. That little always that I think I told you about earlier, this is probably the smallest little notch tag that I have ever utilized in my whole entire life, but it found a home and it makes me so stinking happy. And I think that's why I keep doing MemoryDex cards rather. They just make me happy. How quick they come together, how fun they are to use all these parts and pieces. Okay, guys, wrapping this up. I hope this has been helpful. One of the last points I want to make about MemoryDex is, and I explained this at the beginning, was the idea of this creative visual inspiration. And so with that requires sentiment. So it can be a really fun excuse to collect sentiments, quotes, word stickers, phrase stickers, rub-ons, right? But not just to collect them to have them, but to put them to use. So I have this 49 and Market Meadows rub-on. It says explore more. And so I like to do this very often, to put the rub-on onto a piece of pattern paper or cardstock and then create my own little sentiment that is on a medium so that it can be a part of the card. And again, be a layer and something that is fun and kind of floaty. My problem very often is, I'm going to cut this down to oblivion here, is that I'm not a very straight cutter. Like I've never been, I don't know what my problem is. I like to make these little notched word tags a little bit longer and fold it over. I don't know, I just like that look. And of course you have to go in and then glue it. And just kind of hold that for a minute. And then you gotta make the decision. Sometimes you can staple these on. Sometimes you can get glue all over your hands. Sometimes, I think what I'm gonna use here after I get this to dry is a little piece of foam. I'm going to grab the little 1/8 inch strip. And what's kind of fun about using this box now as opposed to the spinner back in the day, because the spinner could only have so much height to it because obviously it was spinner. And so, you know, that's no big deal. It's not the end of the world by any means. But I think I like the idea that I can have the elements hang on over the side of my card, and I don't have to worry about spinning these ever. So, I don't know. I'm just trying to find a great way to look at the fact that a lot of these products are no longer available, but that never takes away from the making. And I hope this has been a valuable video to you. If you haven't ever known about MemoryDex, maybe you know a little bit about it now. I would love for you to participate in maybe your own 30-day challenge. I know it's already the 3rd day of March, but you know, okay, 29-day challenge for March, and make a memory card a day. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about MemoryDex or anything else, if you want to see me do something in the future with MemoryDex, well, throw it in the comments and we'll see how that lands. Thank you guys so much for being here. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful, and I'll see you in the next video.